You've brought us a really interesting topic, one that always seems to kick off with a lot of energy. Brand strategy.
Mm-hmm.
We've got this collection of articles, notes, all focused on, building that perfect plan, the one that really nails down who you are, where you fit in the market,
Yeah.
lays out the road ahead.
Yeah.
And there's that moment, isn't there, when you get it down on paper, it feels like, okay, we've cracked it.
Oh, absolutely. There's a real buzz when you finally solidify that brand strategy.
Right.
You've done the hard thinking, looked at the competition, and bang, there it is, this documented vision. It really feels like you're holding the key.
Yeah, the key to everything.
Yeah.
But then we had this concept from one of the pieces you shared, the document graveyard.
Oof.
It's such a stark image, isn't it? This beautifully crafted strategy just packed with potential, and it just sits there in a folder somewhere. It really gets used.
Exactly. It's like you said, having this amazing blueprint for a dream house, but never actually breaking ground.
Or that telescope comparison, right?
Yeah.
Buying the best gear, but keeping the lens cap on.
That's a great one, too. All that thinking, all that effort, aimed at building a stronger brand. But it stays kind of theoretical because the next step, the action, it just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what we're diving into today, right? Why actually doing something with this strategy is so critical and, how to avoid ending up in that graveyard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's unpack it. So there's this piece, the implementation gap, that really captures that initial appeal.
Yeah.
It talks about those internal wins. You feel more confident. Making decisions gets easier. There's this renewed excitement. Maybe the team feels more aligned.
And those things are genuinely valuable, don't get me wrong.
Oh, for sure.
Having that clarity, who we are, who we're talking to, what makes us different, it gives you a strong internal compass. It lines people up, gets everyone, pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, it feels solid,
Uh-huh.
but like the article says, that's all internal.
Right.
It doesn't just magically, translate to the outside world. It's like having those amazing restaurant plans we talked about. Detailed plans, perfect menu.
But no restaurant, no food, no customers.
Exactly. The doors never open.
Precisely. The strategy, the plan, it's full of potential, but
Yeah.
it's just potential until you act on it consistently.
That's implementation. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't actively implement all that great thinking,
Mm-hmm.
well, your website doesn't just update itself to reflect the new strategy.
Nope.
Your marketing messages don't suddenly start singing in harmony.
Right.
And people don't just automatically start recognizing your brand more. It doesn't just happen.
Exactly. The article spells it out how people actually experience your brand. That's all implementation.
Everything they see and interact with.
Your website, social media, ads, even how your sales team talks, it all comes down to putting the strategy into practice. A brilliant strategy that nobody sees. It's basically invisible.
Okay, so if the strategy itself feels so good and implementing it seems so obviously necessary, why do so many end up collecting digital dust? What causes this implementation gap?
Yeah. The big question, the sources point to a few key things. A really big one is just the tyranny of the urgent.
The day-to-day stuff.
Exactly. You get totally swamped by running the business,
Okay.
putting out fires, hitting immediate deadlines,
Yeah.
and the longer-term strategic stuff. It gets pushed to the later pile.
Which, let's be honest, later often means never.
Pretty much. It takes real discipline, to carve out time and resources for strategic execution when everything else is screaming for attention.
It's that classic urgent versus important battle, isn't it? You should be working on the brand rollout, but then a huge customer issue blows up or a product launch needs all hands. And poof, the strategy implementation slides down the priority list again.
Okay, what else?
Then there's what the article calls the expertise gap.
Yeah.
This is a big one.
The skills you need to actually create the strategy, like deep analysis, research, positioning.
Right, the thinking part.
Yeah. They're often really different from the skills needed to execute it. Things like great design, persuasive copywriting, knowing the technical side of digital marketing.
That makes total sense. The person brilliant at mapping out the market position might not be the best person to write killer website copy that actually reflects it.
Exactly. Or, the visionary strategist might not have a clue how to make sure the visual identity looks right across 15 different platforms. And a critical point the article raises here, Sometimes the designers or copywriters you hire, even if they're amazing at their craft,
Yeah.
they might not be trained specifically in how to take a high-level strategy doc and really translate it effectively into their work. They have their own ways of doing things, their own processes.
Ah, okay. So they might do good work, but it's not necessarily anchored in that specific strategy.
It might not be, which leads to another hurdle: accountability.
Who owns it?
Exactly. If nobody is clearly responsible for driving the implementation,
Then it probably won't happen.
it's just too easy for it to fall through the cracks. Everyone agrees the strategy is great, nods, and then goes back to their regular job.
Mm-hmm. And the article mentioned this gets even trickier with outside help, like agencies or freelancers.
Yes, that adds another layer. They bring great skills, obviously, but they also have their own systems, their own workflows.
Right.
And getting them fully onboarded, getting them to truly integrate your specific brand strategy into their execution, that can be a real challenge.
It sounds like a communication challenge almost, like speaking slightly different dialects.
That's a good way to put it. They might deliver quality stuff in their silo, but if it's not deeply connected back to that core strategy.
They're not getting the full benefit of that initial strategic work.
Precisely. And then finally, the article mentions translation difficulties.
Okay.
Just the basic act of turning those sort of abstract strategic ideas, core values, brand personality, tone of voice,
Yeah, the big picture stuff.
into concrete, practical actions across all your marketing. That's harder than it looks. It takes a specific skill to bridge that gap between the what and the how.
Okay, wow. So a lot of reasons why things stall. We've got the day-to-day pressures, the skills gap, lack of ownership, challenges with external partners, and just the difficulty of translating concepts into action.
Yep, that sums up the main culprits pretty well, the document graveyard feeders.
Right. So we've laid out the problem clearly. Let's pivot to solutions. The articles strongly push for implementation support. How does that actually help bridge this gap?
Okay, so implementation support, as it's described, tackles these issues head on. First off, consistency.
Okay.
Having someone specifically focused on implementation means you have a brand guardian. They make sure the message, the look, the feel, it's all unified, everywhere.
Website, social, emails, ads, everything.
Everything, every single touch point. That consistency is huge for how people perceive you.
Yeah, it builds trust, recognition,
Yep.
it makes the brand feel solid and real.
Totally. Second big benefit, expertise.
Right, plugging that gap we talked about.
Exactly. The article mentions roles like a chief brand officer or maybe an external consultant, someone who gets both the strategy and the practical side of marketing execution. They can guide the designers, the copywriters, the marketing team, make sure all the tactics actually serve the big picture strategy.
And it clarified, didn't it, that this person isn't always doing all the hands-on work themselves.
Correct. It's often more about providing that strategic correction, that oversight, making sure the people doing the work are aligned with the brand strategy.
Got it. Like a strategic conductor for the orchestra.
That's a perfect analogy. Then number 3, and this is crucial, accountability.
Ah, yes. The ownership piece.
Having a dedicated person or partner whose job it is to drive implementation, that creates momentum. They're the ones chasing things up, making sure the strategy doesn't get forgotten.
Prevents it from just drifting. Keeps it moving forward.
Precisely. They keep the focus on applying it across all the channels.
That makes a huge difference. It's like having a project manager just for the brand rollout.
A very strategic project manager, yes.
Yeah.
And finally, the article brings up adaptation.
Meaning.
The market isn't static, right? Things change. Competitors move. Customer tastes shift.
Sure.
Good implementation support includes keeping an eye on performance, seeing what's working and what's not, and being ready to tweak the tactics based on data and what's happening out there.
So it's not just implement the plan. It's implement, measure, learn, adjust, repeat.
Exactly. It's an ongoing cycle of refinement to make sure the strategy stays effective in the real world.
Okay, that paints a clear picture of what implementation support does. This leads nicely into the distinction the articles make between strategy development itself and this ongoing implementation support.
Yeah, they're definitely two sides of the same coin, but distinct phases.
So strategy development, that's the foundational work, right? Defining your position, figuring out the core message, understanding the audience, setting the brand guidelines.
Mm-hmm. It's nailing down the what and the why of your brand. Who are you? What do you stand for? Why should customers care? That's the strategy piece.
The blueprint.
The blueprint, exactly. Implementation support, then, is all about the how.
Okay.
It's the continuous work of taking that blueprint and actually building the house, so to speak, bringing it to life across all your marketing, all your customer interactions, day in, day out.
And the engagement model usually reflects that difference too, doesn't it? Strategy is often more like a project.
Right, typically a one-time fee for that defined scope of work, delivering the strategy document, the guidelines, etc.
Whereas implementation support sounds more like an ongoing relationship.
Usually, yes. Often structured as a monthly retainer or ongoing engagement because it is ongoing work. It's about consistent execution, monitoring, and adapting over time.
Makes sense. One builds the foundation, the other builds on the foundation and keeps it strong.
You got it.
Okay, so let's talk results. The ROI. The article sketched out kind of 3 potential outcomes based on how companies handle this.
Yeah, it lays it out quite clearly. Outcome 1, strategy alone.
You do the hard work, get the great plan.
You get that internal clarity, which is good, team alignment, easier decisions, real benefits there. But without dedicated implementation, the external impact is limited. Your team might get it, but your potential customers, maybe not so much. The value doesn't fully translate outwards.
Okay, outcome 2. Implementation without strategy.
Yes, lots of activity marketing campaigns, maybe a new website.
Doing stuff.
Doing lots of stuff.
Yeah.
But without that guiding strategy, it's likely to be scattered. Disjointed messages, inconsistent look and feel.
Wasted effort potential.
Potentially a lot of wasted effort and resources. You're busy, but are you moving effectively towards a clear goal? Probably not. It lacks focus.
Okay, not ideal. Which brings us to outcome 3, strategy plus implementation.
And that's where, as the article puts it, the magic happens.
Yeah.
When you combine that clear strategic direction with consistent, effective execution, that's when you really unlock the brand's potential in the market.
Because the strategy guides the implementation.
Exactly. Every piece of marketing, every customer interaction is informed by that core strategy. It creates a powerful, cohesive brand experience.
One that resonates with the right audience.
And ultimately drives the business results you're looking for. That's the full realization of the brand's power.
So the articles really emphasize that the most successful brands get this connection. Strategy gets the why and the direction.
The roadmap and the emotional core.
And implementation is what makes it real and impactful for actual customers.
Absolutely. And it leaves us and the listener with a really important takeaway.
Which is?
If you have a brand strategy that's maybe sitting on the shelf right now,
Or if you're planning to create one.
yes, you absolutely must have a clear plan for implementation baked in from the start. Otherwise,
You risk ending up in that document graveyard.
it's a very high risk. That implementation plan is crucial.
So for everyone listening, maybe take a moment to think about your own situation. Is there a strategy document gathering dust? Are you about to invest in creating one? If so, what are the concrete steps you're going to take?
Seems like it. And, if you're feeling stuck on bridging that gap between the plan and the action.
Between strategy and implementation.
Right. The article also suggests just scheduling a short discovery call to talk through specific challenges and goals.
So, options for moving forward.
Yeah, practical ways to start moving from document to impact.
Great. So I think the big message today is really, don't stop at the strategy document. Think hard about the how. How will you actively, consistently bring that strategy to life so it doesn't just look good on paper, but actually drives results? What's that superpower waiting to be unleashed?
That's the key question. Food for thought.
Definitely. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.